Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. And once again, I'm here talking about what is becoming one of my favorite and most repeated topics, and that is China. Uh, because the amount of propaganda about China, you've got two sides of the propaganda. You've got uh, CCP propaganda saying, China's invincible. Rah, rah, rah. It's an empire that's been around for 3,000 years and will stand for another bajillion years. On the other side, you've got the CIA propaganda, mostly led by the CIA at this point, being like, China's gonna fall any day, and it's like, no, it's not gonna fall any day. It's somewhere in the middle. It leans closer to CIA propaganda, it, like my opinion is you don't have to worry about China militarily because China will collapse before that ever becomes a real problem due to domestic issues because it is a command economy for the most part. Um, it's a weird hybrid economy where you could start an independent business, but if you reach a certain size, you know, it becomes basically government property. And then you've got the Chinese government basically controlling very important sectors to a higher degree than even feudalist systems did, which is crazy to think about when you think about the amount of control a feudalist system had about, say, mining, for example. But the reason I want to I want to talk about China again is they have been specifically lashing out because of comments made by the new Prime Minister of Japan, who I forget her name, and I would probably do a horrible job of pronunciation. She is a right-leaning populist of the Japanese variety. She may be very neocon-ish. I don't know enough about internal Japanese politics to be 100% sure on this, but she basically won because she ran a very populist campaign. But anyways, she came out and said that Japan would stand with Taiwan if the time comes that China were to invade, because the last few weeks there has been more neocon propaganda being like, China's preparing to invade Taiwan. Okay, I've been around the block for a while. All right, I've been, you know, in no, I'm not involved, but watching geopolitics for at least 10 years. All right, fairly closely. But even if you don't take that into account, like the last 5 years, this talking point comes up almost every year. It's just they're gonna invade Taiwan. Like, it's just more scaremongering so that we can focus on China and spend billions of dollars laundering money, and provoke the hell out of China into actually invading or doing something really stupid with their military. But in response to that, the Chinese ambassador to Japan is like, off with her head. Now it's a not that succinct of a comment. It's longer and it's like posted on X or whatever. But that's the vein. Is basically, nope, off with her head, and then does the same thing to the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth. Like, the exact same comment. It's like, okay, you people have lost your freaking marbles. And there's been a whole massive propaganda campaign going in and surrounding Japan since this new prime minister was elected. I believe it was with a slim majority too. Just know that, because parliamentary politics does mean some stuff sometimes. But why this matters is, like, the CCP has had defeat after defeat of their own making for like the last couple months. The most couple recent ones are like, if I can go in reverse chronological order here. You've got that brand new bridge that they had that massive propaganda campaign about being like, look, this is a beautiful bridge. It's a beautiful bridge to fucking nowhere, but that's besides the point. Being just utterly annihilated by, I believe it was a landslide. Yeah, but like completely annihilated. Like the bridge is just gone. There was also, I think, 4 other bridges that the CCP in like recent years built were also absolutely destroyed. This is on the heels of massive natural disasters throughout the country due to just lack of infrastructure when it comes to water drainage. Like you've had hundreds of people drown, if not thousands or maybe even tens of thousands. Like it's devastating to the Chinese people. Then you had the fact that they ran that propaganda campaign of, hey, look, we brought an air fryer, okay, a convection oven up into space, and we made fried chicken with it. And then like a couple days later, they're like, we can't bring down our astronauts at the moment because there's like a crack in the reentry vehicle. Just embarrassing. And then before that, you had the run-in with, I believe, Filipino fishermen in Filipino territorial waters, where China sent 2 frigates, I believe they were frigates, into territorial waters of the Philippines, and threatened and tried to ram the Filipino fishermen, and instead the frigate rammed its buddy and killed, I believe, at least 2 Chinese seamen. That's just embarrassing. And at the time where you have the Chinese economy, as I completely say, is on fire. They're like China's trying to do something called export deflation. It's where you massively overproduce things and try to undercut around the world in products. So like just think cheap Chinese steel being like sold at 40% the cost. Trying to export the deflationary measures of, a collapse because nobody's buying domestically in China. It's like they've been doing it for a while. It's not really working. I continually mention that they have riots and sabotage and revenge attacks due to specifically state-run factories not paying their employees. Chinese banking system is almost completely illiquid. You have, again, protest riots about people trying to take money out of their bank accounts and not being able to because the bank doesn't have the actual money, because they are illiquid as shit, because of, again, a command economy and the Eurodollar. So, like, in the most, like, the Chinese government is just lashing out, and Xi has been purging, and I mean purging key official posts like routinely for like, again, the last few years. This does not instill confidence in the supposed Chinese empire. And this is what an empire in the modern day dying looks like. Continually trying to exude confidence and power and just unable to not undermine itself. There is a real chance at some point the CCP tries to go to war. I think that's very unlikely because, again, of the domestic issues in China, but also Yeah, the state of the Chinese military is hilarious. Again, a frigate rammed its buddy while trying to ram a small fishing boat. That shit does not happen in real navies. Okay, sure, China's increasing military spending and production of things and can produce a lot, but when you're dealing with things that are made of Chinesium and break and have reliability problems more often than Northrop Grumman and Raytheon planes, because those American planes only have reliability issues because they don't have the production capability to produce enough parts to maintain the airplane correctly. Like legitimately, that came out in the last 2 years, and like maybe you shouldn't produce highly advanced technical airplanes that require super tight maintenance, and if you don't replace parts often enough, they're flying pieces of garbage and sink in the ocean. Think of the F-35 with that, because that's happened a lot. But also the Osprey does it a lot too, because it's the same problem. Anyways, like China's in no state to go to war. You've got so many domestic issues. As long as someone doesn't start shit with China, if they do the fighting, if they throw the first punch, they lose because of domestic policy and domestic issues. But if someone were to throw the punch at China first, it becomes, hey, look, this is a great rally around the flag scenario. Now you've got patriotism being forced upon people, and you get serious scenarios with that. Like, it's a similar situation to World War I, World War II. The American people definitely wanted to stay the ever-living hell out of those wars until they miraculously got hit in the face with a punch. And then it became, oh, hell nah, we ain't gonna stop until this is over. Very similar thing. Never be the one to throw the first punch. Always be the one to throw the last punch. Has been my motto. So, like, it's just to see them struggle. It brings me great joy, because communists can go fuck themselves. They are horrible, awful people. Horrible people. But, it is concerning, all right? This is the type of scenario where it leads to a desperation spiral, and most often that ends in some sort of conflict. It's why the Chinese keep using the rare earths against the United States in trade negotiations. Like, I still think you restrict treasuries to China and you go stronger and harder than what happened with America, because the de-dollarization is nonsense. Just I've been over it before. I'm not going to go over it again, but you can listen to Brett Johnson, who does a fantastic job of talking about it. And that just dries up liquidity, and you just crush the internal banking system of China. And you'll see how far you can extend and pretend with a hostile government, with a banking system that's been trying to tap out for like the last 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, they were trying to tap out in 2021, but 2022 is when they were like, nope, come on, please let us tap out. And the Chinese government refuses to let them. They're forcing bad loans on them. It's a horrendous state. The Chinese economy is just awful. I know there's a lot of lies out there being like, oh, we lifted so many Chinese people out of poverty. It's like, no, you've lifted certain sections of certain cities out of poverty. The vast majority of Chinese people are still dirt poor. The vast majority of them are like at or above dirt poor farmer. Like that's how bad China's economy is in reality. Um, so it's just it's a good thing to see because it's going to force the hand of those around Xi into saying, "Hey, do we sacrifice Xi, put someone else in there, and buy some time?" Now, I have been routinely saying that I don't think Xi survives this financial crisis because Hu Jintao didn't survive the previous financial crisis. Now, Xi has consolidated power to a larger degree with sycophants for the most part, but again, you can there's always going to be someone who's ambitious, looks at the scenario and is like, no, we just have to take matters into our own hands. It's just how history works. Like, you don't get to extend and pretend to brutal dictatorship forever. Just look at the Roman Empire. When you have, like, you can think of Nero or Commodus is, I think, a better example. It went on for a while, but eventually everybody around Commodus was like, yeah, no, we got to take him out. We just have to, like, for the health of the empire. And it happened to several times in the Roman Empire, to the point where there became a point where you had to pay the Praetorians massive amounts of sum and promise them basically to become lords and nobility. Otherwise, your reign as empire was over because the Praetorians were your guards. Um, it's not long after that happened that the Western Empire really started to crumble and fell. And swapped out the Praetorians for like Varangians and shit, and it's like, oh, this is not gonna end well. Or not Varangians, the Vandals. I am now messing up fantasy shit with reality. That's how bad how tired I am at this point. But yeah, I would. China's lashing out, and it. If you just sit back and you don't think of the risk of war, it's hilarious. When you add in the actual risk of, oh, Xi's losing power, this either means internal power struggles eventually, or projecting force outward, which they currently do, but it could be much much worse. Um, it's just like here's the issue I have with like China pushing a war. All right, because of the one child policy, parents have invested so much into their sons. Like, there are more than a few documented cases of parents straight up dumping their firstborn baby girls in the trash so that they can have, the one child boy. Um, it always seems, just to bring this up, whenever there is either a one child policy or say some type of abortion policy that's allowed to happen, it disproportionately affects females of women. Like it's always little girls that are going to suffer the worst with those policies. Just pointing that out. Anyways, and the what I'm trying to get to is, with parents being so invested in their children, what happens when a battle goes wrong and a regiment or a platoon or a legion or however they're like a battle group, right, just gets decimated, let's say. The way the Chinese organize their armies, it's by like village, province, that type of thing. So like, if a front gets devastated, like, that's a province whose children are just gone. Like, it's not the way that it's dispersed in, say, the U.S. military, where it's spread out through the whole country, and it's not like, oh hey, this entire city lost its male children. Like, it's just in China, that's the way it's done because it's the old school way of doing things. It's just like that is a recipe for disaster for the Chinese military because now you basically radicalize an entire village against you or a province at a time where they're already starting to self-radicalize. Like, the amount of propaganda in China is outlandishly high, but it's a scenario in which it's very similar to what survivors of the USSR said with Pravda. We know they're lying. They know we're lying. We know. They know. We know that they're full of shit. Type deal. So everybody knows knows the lie, but they go along with it up until a certain point. And again, if you watch the China show on Fridays, highly suggest you do. You know this. Like, China is just, it's one of those places geopolitically right now. The best scenario is to just kind of contain them. And I don't mean like the old school containment policy for what's it called? Communism. I don't mean that. I mean just like, we really need to back the hell away from China. We'll keep them out of our domestic politics. We'll keep them out of our friends' domestic politics. And we'll just kind of leave them on their own. It's very much the same thing that everybody's been doing with North Korea of like, we're not going to actively antagonize them because Little Rocket Man's got nukes. We can't go in there and stop what they're doing, but we can, just keep them contained in their nation. Like, you could realistically start to do that, and you're seeing that in the way that Trump was trying to do things, and then he backed off, and like, there was a path in which the containment of China was going to happen. He has since really screwed the pooch on that. Overplayed some cards, underplayed others. It's a horrible situation. So we're left with this mess. I still think one of the best things you could do to secure your own nation is like all the student visas that are handed to China and just like all those things handed to the Chinese. It's just revoke them and send them back. Just deport them. It's because there's law in China that you have to spy for the Chinese when you go overseas. Otherwise, your family members back home are punished severely. So that's how the CCP works. So it's, again, until the CCP collapses upon its own weight of the system that it's created, it's best to just kind of let them stew in their own mess. Don't let them get out too much. Just kind of let them be there. Like, there's not too much you can do when China has that many nukes and the production capability it does. Like, going to war is a bad policy with them, because eventually you could push them into a no-win scenario where it's like, we're gonna press the giant red button. Nobody wants to go down there, except for crazy motherfuckers. So I rather like the economic containment policy. It's more effective. But again, these outbursts should scream to everybody, dying empire. Like, yes, you get the same thing in the West to a certain degree, but if you look at the system itself, I'm specifically thinking of the American empire, all right? Because the euro dollar exists And because you're likely to see massive dollarization because of the Genius Act, again, go check out Brent Johnson's work on that. Fantastic. This past Sunday, he published a talk he had about that. Highly recommend you go check that out. It is, again, fantastic. It's like 45 minutes long. It's not that terribly long. It doesn't go into the extreme and niche positions of the Eurodollar market, but it is, in fact, a great video that you should go watch. But because of the consequences of all of that, you will likely see rapid dollarization happening, like we continue to see. Like, the big problem with the Eurodollar market and why people don't believe in dollarization is one, narrative, but also the Eurodollar market happens on everybody's little black books that are not produced and shown to fucking anybody. So you have to, it's very much peering into the abyss and watching a shadow in shadow. It's very difficult to do. You can do it, but you're only seeing, again, a very tiny percentage of what's going on. Like, the repo market. The vast majority of the repo market, again, is on black books that nobody shows anybody, and there's no real detectors for. So you have no damn clue what's going on in the repo market until it blows up. For the most part. Like, you can get signs that there's stuff going bad, like SOFR can spike or whatever, but it's just it's really hard to see. It's the same thing with derivatives. You see so little of the derivatives market. It's hard to see. Anyways, that is the video for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a good day. But until tomorrow, when I next put out a video, probably I want to shit on some Canadian politicians. That'll probably be the idea. Maybe I talk about credit and leverage, because also very important, because that really seems to be cracking really hard right now. But anyways, until I see you tomorrow, have a good day.